Hey there, you two. Petey Two Finger here, talking about quitting smoking. For me, it was tapering the nicotine as I vaped. I was making my own e-liquid, and so every month I would make another batch of that. And we would, I started at basically 3 mils of nicotine in the liquid, and I would reduce that by 0.5 mil every batch. So by the end of the year, I was nicotine free, and I put the vape down. It was like, why am I vaping? My system was released from nicotine so slowly that I never had that psychological anguish. Every other time I had tried to quit, I would go through this cold turkey process. I would set a date like, okay, January 15th, I'm going to quit. And I would stop smoking on the 16th. I would wake up and deal with it. And it was hell. It was bad. I would typically make it 3 months. One time I made it 9 months. One time I only made it a month. And the reason being was every time I had quit cold turkey, it was like there was a hole. Something was missing out of my life, and I was miserable. And every time I saw anybody on camera, on TV, smoking, I was just like, the urge to smoke was overwhelming. Anytime I smelled someone else smoking, the urge to smoke was overwhelming. Same thing, anything involving cigarettes, seeing an ashtray, seeing a lighter, anything like that would set me off. Trigger me, So now I'm here to pat myself on the back. That's why I'm making this video. It's 2019. Honey, when was my last cigarette?
2020. January 2015.
January 2015 was my last cigarette. So it's
over 5 years.
It's over 5 years.
Over 5.5 years.
Over 5.5 years. So I did a good job, didn't I? If you knew me, you would be really surprised, because I chain smoked. I was 15 when I had my first Marlboro. My brother gave me one. I switched to Marlboro Lights because the Reds kind of gave me a lot of weird side effects. And I'll tell you what, something about those store-bought cigarettes is really magical. They're like smoking crack or like doing heroin. There's something about a cigarette that it does some dopamine trick in your brain that I don't know how they figure that out. It's a lot of chemicals. There's a MAOI inhibitor to suspend the dopamine that's released to make it last longer. The dopamine that's released is so intense. And when I came down from vaping, like, the way I can describe it is this. Every time that I cold turkeyed, it was unbelievable. Like, it was bad. Like, really, really bad. The withdrawal. When I switched over from smoking to vaping, it was bad, but I didn't know what I was doing. I had the worst quality vape thing that would, like, it didn't put out any vapor. I didn't know what I was doing. I had flavors that I hated. I did it all wrong. And then I started buying better stuff. I got some Tutti Puffer stuff that was, anything was better than what I started with, which was a Mach 10. And that Philip Morris made that and gave out free coupons, and they made it so it deliberately didn't work. So people were like hearing all the stuff about e-cigarettes, and they would get a coupon. And so they would take it in, give me one of them free cigarettes. And then they would use it, like, if they were going to a concert and it was no smoking in there, they would put their head down in a coat or go in the bathroom and hide and take a couple of hits off this thing. And it didn't even work. It was horrible. It tasted like really bad taste. And then there was no sense of relief from the nicotine. So, absolutely brilliant marketing on the part of Marlboro. And then we see these things like the Juul, the closed system that has nicotine salt in it, and that's more marketed to kids. And this nicotine salt is way more powerful and addictive in a vape form. They figured that out. They figured out how to like weaponize the vape and to get that powerful dopamine release from a vape. And then that's marketed to kids. All those closed systems, that's the stuff that you go and buy at a mom and pop grocery store, a gas station, a head shop, a cigarette shop. Those closed systems, that's the devil. That stuff is evil. The only way to go for it is open system, and we need regulation on it. We do. That whole thing with those people getting sick, that sounds very like Swigglesworth. There was a guy in Willy Wonka that was like, yes, the evil guy. Remember that Swigglesworth guy? And I'm guessing those people that were getting sick and dying from vaping, it was some kind of industrial. There was some Swigglesworth behind that, going into the store and doing a bait and switch with some kind of untraceable toxin. Because there is so much money behind all of this, and like Trump coming out doing that flavor ban, that's just unbelievable ridiculous. What they should do, they should hire people like me to work at a community smoke assistance program where you go in and they hook you up. You get rechargeable lithium-ion device with a tank and coils. Because that whole thing of making those cloud chunkers, the guys with the gauges and the big beards, with the bottle around their neck, and they're dropping it onto the thing all the time, and then a giant cloud, doing those tricks and all that. No, that's vape culture. That's a different thing than people who want to quit. If you want to quit, you don't want a little tooty puffer thing. You don't need one of those juice baba, watch me blow my giant cloud in Toys R Us. None of that. You don't need to get tattoos. Just a little box with a tank that holds like 7 to 10 mils. Something that tastes really good. With a coil you replace every other week. And then you recharge this thing like you charge your phone on a USB. Charge it every other day. And you have somebody there explaining, look, if you're going to quit smoking, you have to quit smoking. Because so many people heard about this vape thing, and they're like, well, I'm going to buy that vape, and I'll tell you what, I'm going to see how it goes. I'm going to take it to work, and then I'm going to use it at work. But when I get home and crack open my beers and smoke my weed, I'm going to go ahead and smoke my Newports. No. You can't do that. You have to give up the cigarettes. And when you give up the cigarettes, there's going to be that month where you're going to go cuckoo, where you're vaping. You're going to need like a 6 mil. You're going to need a heavy hit or something that gives you a lot of vape. But I would say really avoid that salt, that nicotine salt, that jewel. Anything with nicotine salts is really bad. But yeah, the whole flavor thing, that's... children are going to get their hands on whatever they're going to get their hands on. I'll tell you the truth, I would rather my kids vape than smoke. Because at least if they vape, they're going to realize, you know what, there's not much to this. I'm not getting my brains blown out like if I smoke a cigarette. And it's expensive, and it's a lot of hassle. You have to keep charging the thing. You've got to keep putting juice in it or making your own juice like I did. And then they're going to give it up. And you know what? They're going to be able to give it up because it's not so addictive. So, yeah, vape is saved my life. It's a great thing. It's misunderstood because of assholes with the big beards and the gauges going into Toys R Us, blowing clouds and filming themselves. You know, that's what a lot of people associate that with. And then all these people getting sick who are using weed products. And then you have all the misinformation from the big tobacco. I'm here to tell you my story. And that was, I tried to quit 10 times, and I hated myself for smoking. I had kids. I smoked in the house. It was all kinds of money. You know, I could have bought probably 2 houses for the amount of shit that I just smoked. And I couldn't, the more I wanted to stop smoking, the more I smoked. And the only thing that ever got me free from it, because every time I tried to quit, I got pulled back in. I couldn't help myself. The only time I was able to quit was when I switched from smoking to vaping. I did a cold turkey, like this is the last day I'm going to smoke, and then I'm only vaping. And I told my wife I'm going to try to do it with this cheap stuff, but if I don't, we're going to have to buy more expensive vape stuff. But we should really plan on I only vape for like 3 years at the most. And I was able to hyper accelerate that, get a real lot of good vape equipment here, make my own e-liquid, really kind of excelled at the whole like learning about it, doing well, making videos, selling this products, and then I tapered as we made a batch. Every time we made a batch, I would come down with less nicotine. So, if you're stuck, if you need help, if you have questions, you can get a hold of me. I'll help you out. Fast Tech is the place where you want to go to buy your hardware. And as far as making the stuff, you can download software that has the recipes in, and I'll tell you how to do it. You need to get some small syringes to measure the like 1 milliliter syringes, a bunch of ones, disposable ones, and then a couple of larger. You can go to a veterinary supply house and get those. That's where you get those cheap. But yeah, it's been 5 years for me. I just saw some video on vaping, and I thought I would reiterate how I ended up saving my own life through vaping. And I don't, every once in a while, if I see something on it, I kind of get reminiscent about it, and I'm thinking I would really love to take another hit of that vape. But making a video like this tonight is going to help with that. I don't want to take another hit of that vape. I mean, I don't miss it. All just being constantly grabbing that thing and putting something in your lungs that doesn't belong there. So, yeah, hooray for me. I'm free. Shame on us, this nation, for banning this. The people who are behind banning it, that's all big tobacco. Vaping is, when you do it right, which means it's not about showing off, and you do it in private, it's the only way I was able to get free from it. So I really don't see it as being a gateway into nicotine addiction. I really don't. And you know what? There's so much misinformation in it. It isn't regulated. It needs to be turned into a program of where it's explained, this is how you do it. Because I had to hunt the information down from people that what they were saying made sense to me, and follow in their footsteps. And it shouldn't be like it is. Because when you go out into the community, all the people you run into that are in the shops, they're all full of tattoos and giant neckbeards, and they're all dropping their little juice babas into their thing to make the biggest cloud. So it's more about, look at me in some competition. Look at how much of a freak I look like with my big froon, big plastic rim glasses and my hat with the bill up. I look like a gorilla. I've got a giant beard. I'm covered in tattoos. And I mean, like a choo-choo train sitting here stinking up the place with my coconut line, whatever, horrible. And because that's not the answer. Chunking clouds, that's, to me, that's how you end up in the hospital. So it's crazy because we're never going to get to that spot when you still have big tobacco and money. It's all about greed, isn't it? It's all about money and greed in this world. All right, you guys, stay safe and try to be nice.